Hello Quilt Artisans, my name is Shonda and welcome to my channel Under the Needle. So right now I am shooting a video about putting a pattern together from start to finish. This is one of Gudrun Erla's patterns over at GE Designs called Venus. As a part of that instructional video, I filmed a segment on how I baste a quilt on a wall. And so I thought it would be good to pull that segment out and have a separate video for it, just in case anyone wants a specific video by itself just on how I baste. So with no further ado, here we go. Hello everyone. So next step is basting. So this is my completed Venus quilt top. Again, if you watch my channel, you know I've got a lot going on right now. I'm in a temporary space, so you're going to have to disregard all the junk. So I baste exclusively on a wall. So as you can see, this is not an actual wall. This is a piece of foam insulation that I picked up from Lowe's. It's actually two pieces stacked. And this is what I use for my design wall, and this is also how I baste. Now, the first time that I ever made a quilt, back in 1999 or whatever it was, spray basting wasn't an option that I was aware of at that time, so I did use pins. I used curved pins on the floor, crawling around. Hated it, right? Then I was able to find at my local quilt store or local Joann's, whatever it was, this little thing. It was almost like what they used to attach price tags, and there were these little plastic pieces, little eye-shaped pieces, like the letter I, that look like a shorter version of what they use to attach a price tag to a garment in a retail store. And so you could use the little gun to attach these little plastic tags to tie your quilt. I did that. Another quilt I just hand tied. I always hated the basting process. I have tried basting on the floor. I've tried basting on a table. I've used pool noodles. But for me, the easiest version is this. Now, a wall, the floor could work, but basting on a carpet for me is difficult, right? Because you need for your backing fabric to be taut, not stretched. You don't want to stretch the backing fabric, but you want it pulled taut. And it's very difficult to do that on carpet, right? So, and then the carpet has give, so the carpet itself has flex. So it's really difficult to baste on a carpet. I got really terrible results when I did it, but I did it because I didn't have a choice until I learned this method. If you have a large section of floor that does not have carpeting, you can do that. You can spread your backing out, and then you can tape it in various places so that it's taut, and you can baste that way. But that would still be difficult for me because I am a short person. I'm a short individual. And so when I'm trying to reach, I have short arms, short legs, short torso, I'm just short. I am all of 5'1". And so when I'm trying to baste, it's very difficult for me to reach across the quilt to smooth without one hand needing to lean on the quilt itself. So basting on the floor does not work for me. I have to do a lot of extra smoothing. I exclusively spray baste now, and I also do it on the wall. Now, you're supposed to baste in a well-ventilated area. I am not doing that right now. Don't at me, okay? Don't at me. Because there is a door here that I can close, but not close, open. There's a door that I can open for ventilation, but if I do that, the bees and the wasps are on fleek, and I don't want them to fly in here. So the first thing that you're going to want to do, I have my quilt top up here just because, so you guys could see it. So I did put some, I did cut some 4.5-inch strips and add borders, but that's not what this video is about. I'll talk about that later. Let's go ahead and get to basting. So the first thing that I do is decrease the temperature in my home, because basting, there's a lot of movement, and sometimes I get a little warm So turn the temperature down. Another thing you can do, and this is something that I recommend, and it's something that I'll probably do when my space is completely set up. If you're basting a quilt, go ahead and baste more than one. Like I have several quilts that need basting. I'm doing this video, so I'm not going to do this today. But ideally, a good thing to do would be, since you're already in the process of basting, just go ahead and baste 2 or 3 quilts and get them over with. And that way you have sandwiches ready to quilt. So I'm going to get started. So I'm going to go ahead and take this down. I just got some pins in here. Now, when I'm using this as a design wall, I do have a piece of, I think that the Fons & Porter 72 by 72 portable design wall. I do have that, and so I'll take it and put it up here. And that way I can stick my blocks up here. But I did not want that fabric on here while I was basting, so I removed it. So you can see I've got some clips here. And these clips are to help me keep the backing fabric smooth and taut, but yet not stretched. So that's your first step. The first step would be to take your backing fabric, your prepared piece of backing fabric, and go ahead and put it on a wall. If you're using the insulation like me, then you can use clips. If you are not, and you don't have clips, I've done this using pins. So I've done this and put my backing fabric up and used just pins to secure the backing fabric to keep it taut. I've done that as well. And you can also use tape. Some painter's tape works great. If you don't want to use painter's tape, you can even use duct tape, because you're really just going to be putting it around the edges, and the edges aren't going to be in your quilt. So if there is residue from the tape, it's not a big deal. Now I've already cut my my batting. Now some people say that batting has a right and wrong way. Maybe it does, but to me it does not. I just put it up there whatever way it goes, whatever way. I don't care, and it's never made a difference, and I've never been able to tell the right or wrong side. And plus the packaging. So this is Warm and Natural, and when you look at the packaging for Warm and Natural, it does not say anything about there being a front and back. So I'm not worried about that. So I'm going to go ahead and get my backing fabric up here a little bit, and then I'm going to start to do the spray basting. So these clips that I've got up here to hold my backing fabric, I'm going to use those same clips to attach my batting, and then we will do some spraying and securing. So I don't know if you guys can see what I'm doing, but I just attached these first 2 clips here. Okay, so I've got the batting up there. Everything is taut, right? So, and also for those of you that say that you don't have a lot of wall space, this might be an option, right? If you can get, and you can cut this down. It's just a thin piece of foam insulation. This was only like half an inch thick, so this is pretty thin. And you don't need the full 8-foot length, so you could potentially cut it and stash it behind a couch or under a bed or something, and then just pull it out and put it up against something when you need to use it. So that's an idea. All right, so it's up here. So now I want to go ahead and start basting. So basically, I'm going to unclip the batting, but clip the backing, leave the backing clipped. And I'm just going to do that on both sides. All right. So now I'm going to just spray some of my 505 on this top portion here and then rearrange my batting, and then I'll do the bottom. So it's sprayed. So now I'm just going to smooth this out. Let's try to smooth it from the middle outward. And once it's like mostly smooth, I can go ahead and reattach my clips. And yes, it's a little fiddly. Normally it's in a bit more secure of a spot, but I had scooched it over so that you could get a better view in the camera. Yeah, it keeps sliding down, and that's my fault. Like I said, it's normally scooched over a bit more this way, but so it's more up against the stand, but then you couldn't see everything. Let's see if I can put something down here to keep it from moving. Okay. All right, so that looks pretty good. So we put the top part on. Now we just need to do the bottom. So again, I'm gonna undo these bottom two clips and put it I'm gonna leave it attached to the backing fabric in the back, but I'm just gonna take it off of the batting. And these clips, These are not any kind of special quilt clips. These are just standard binder clips. Pretty sure I got them from the Dollar Tree. Okay. So now we're going to get this on the bottom portion. And you can kind of, when you pull up your batting, you can tell where you left off because you'll hear it. As the batting separates from the backing, you'll hear it. And so you'll know where you left off. Yes, I know I'm using too much 505. Okay, so again, just like to start here in the middle, smooth out. If you have any issues with your smoothing, you can always peel it off and re-smooth. My glasses are falling off because they're broken. And then as I get things smooth, I just go ahead and reattach my clips. All right. Now, if you are a taller person, you might not have to get down on the floor. You might be able to put yours up a little higher. There we go. So our batting is on. Now we just need to attach or put on our quilt top. Where did I put my quilt top at? There it goes. Now, with my quilt top, I'm going to use a couple of pins, right? Because my quilt top is not, I don't want my quilt top to the edge of my batting. So I might use a couple of pins. But I'm basically going to get a few pins and do the exact same process. Now, you don't need a ton of pins because the batting wants to hold on to the quilt anyway. The quilt wants to stick to the batting. So let the batting help you. And as you can see, my quilt is a little wider than my board, and that's okay. We can fix that later. We can get that extra later. All right, so I'm gonna put some pins in the middle so that I can dial back the top. And I usually just put my pins like exactly in the middle. So there's 1, 2, 1, 2, so right here. Now I'm going to put quite a few pins because I don't want the quilt top to come off. When I unpin the top. So I'm actually double pinning. I'm using 2 pins, and I'm putting 2 pins in the corner of each block intersection. That's at the edge, and I'm going to put 2 at each edge. All right, we are sufficiently pinned. So now I'm going to unpin the top, fold it back, spray, and reattach. So I'm going to let this come down gently because remember it's just pinned and I don't want any of those pins to come out. So let it fall down gently. And now that it's down, some people spray the quilt top, some people spray the batting. It's up to you. I'm going to do the quilt top. Alright, now it's sufficiently sprayed. We're just going to smooth our quilt top. We're going to try to smooth from the center out. Okay, so there's the top. Now I'm just going to do the same with the bottom. So for the bottom, I'm not even going to lift the pins up. Just going to pull this up. Need a couple of pins. Okay, a couple pins there. pins here. All right, so now my quilt top is pinned up there. And I'm going to give it a spray. Okay, it's sprayed. Remove the pins. And again, we're just going to smooth out from the center. You can remove all of these pins now. All right, it's up there. Now, if you recall, this is not quite wide enough to cover the entire quilt. There's a little piece over there on the side. Now, this is a really tiny piece. It's literally just it's like less than 12. It's like 8 inches maybe. So what you can do is that you can slide this entire thing over, right? You can undo your clips, slide this entire thing over, and then repeat the process. So if this was a king size quilt, right? So everything that's clipped here, if this was a king size quilt, what you would do is you would unclip it, move it over, and then once you did that, you could continue basting. So I'm going to try to show you that, even though I don't have that much left. So this is going to immediately want to start falling, so just keep that in mind. I'm going to clip it a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this over so it's not as much weight. And I'm going to clip just the batting and the backing and leave the quilt top. And then I'm going to go over this side. And, well, also, when I clipped the batting and the backing, I scooched it over, right? So there was a lot of overhang, right, for the rest of the quilt. So I scooched it over so that you can see, so that I can baste the rest, right? And so I'm going to scooch it over. At this point, I'm not worried about it being taut. I'm just trying to get some of the rest of it over so that I have enough batting and backing showing so that I can finish basting the rest of the quilt. And I just clipped it so that it will be less weight, because this whole thing will fall down because it's the weight of all 3 layers. And I don't want the whole thing collapse into the floor. So most of that weight is the batting and the backing, so I clipped that and left the quilt top. Of course I had to, because the quilt top doesn't go all the way to the edge. So then we go to this side. And we pull it over some. And we're going to pull over all 3 layers. And so now that we've got it clipped over here, we can come back over here and start pulling it taut. So we just want to do the same thing, get everything pulled taut. Nice and smooth. All right. So now we can get the rest. So it's going to be the same process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold over, and because of overspray, like this is really already basted. It's sticking pretty good because I had already gotten this piece of batting pretty good when I sprayed the 505. But what you would do in theory, what I would do, if say this was way out here, I would take the unbasted part and I would fold it over, right? And I would probably pin it. Now because I sprayed the quilt top, that's what it was. I sprayed the quilt top, not the batting. So the quilt top is sticky and it's sticking to the batting. So yours wouldn't be if you did it in another way. So I would fold back the area that is not basted. And then I would do the same thing for the batting. I would take the clips off and I would clip just the backing by itself. And then I would fold over the batting that's not completed, right? Again, you want to make sure everything is pulled taut but not stretched. I need to do a little bit more finagling, but for the purposes of this video, I'll just show you the rest. So then, again, once you've got it folded, then you can go ahead and repeat the same process once you folded it back. So since you've already got the rest of this basted and it's on here pretty good, it would depend on the weight of your quilt. So for me, I could probably go ahead and do all 4 clips and do the full length. But if you had a larger quilt or a heavier quilt, you might not be able to do that. But I probably can go ahead and undo all of my clips. This is much easier when this is on an actual wall, or if you have a way to properly brace it so it's not sliding all over. Right now I have a little bag sitting in front of it so that it can't slide. Alright, I'm just going to go ahead and do my whole shebang here. Smooth it out. I'm gonna go ahead and now I don't need to spray this because it's already been sprayed, so I can just smooth it out. And there, my quilt top is basted. Even with the demoing, well, I did attach the backing first, but I'd say this whole process took about 25 minutes. This quilt top is like 54 by 68 maybe is what it's going to finish at. So it used to be when I would baste, it would take me like an hour to baste an entire quilt. So to be able to get one done in 30 minutes is great. Yes, I'm still hot. Yes, I'm still sweating, but I got it done in half the time and I did not have to get on my hands and knees. So if you want to give this method a try, by all means. If you have any questions, or if you have done this before and you have any suggestions for me to make this process easier, please drop a line in the comments.